The huge meeting hall was full of noise. Hundreds of different alien species talked and argued about their daily business. Some had 6 arms. Others had no arms at all. Some breathed air. Others needed special masks. But they all belonged to the same group, the Galactic Council. Ambassador Zixstar from the Helian people adjusted his breathing mask. He was reading reports about a fight between 2 mining colonies. The fight was about who owned which rocks. On a distant planet. These kinds of fights happened all the time, but they were small problems. For 3,000 years, the galaxy had been mostly peaceful. On the other side of the galaxy, far from the Council's home world, Captain Jake Morrison stood looking out a window. His ship, the U.E.'s Retribution, floated in empty space. In front of him was a colorful cloud of gas and dust that his people called the Veil. It was beautiful, but it also hid something important. Jake was a human. He had gray hair and tired eyes. He had been a soldier for most of his life. Next to him stood Lieutenant Commander Lisa Park, a younger woman with short black hair. She was looking at a small computer screen. "How long has it been since we talked to the outside?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her numbers. 1,700 years, sir. The last message from our outer colonies stopped during the Zephyrian War. Jake nodded slowly. 1,700 years was a long time. Most species in the galaxy lived much shorter lives. They had forgotten about humans completely. On the Council's main world, called Nexus Prime, there were huge libraries. These libraries held millions of old records. Deep in the dusty corners, some very old files mentioned a species called humans. The files said humans were medium-sized creatures who walked on 2 legs. They had been part of the galaxy long ago, but then they disappeared. Most alien scholars thought humans were just stories, like monsters that parents told children about to make them behave. The files were so old that many people thought someone had made them up, but humans were very real. They lived in a secret place called New Terra, hidden behind the veil. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was one of them. She was a scientist who studied other species. She had spent many years listening to alien radio signals and learning their languages. "They think we're dead," Elena told the other human leaders. Or worse, they think we never existed at all. The human leaders sat around a large table in an underground room. The room was deep inside New Terra, protected by thick walls and hidden from any alien scanners. Admiral Rick Hayes was their military commander. He was a tall man with a stern face and cold blue eyes. "Good," Rick said. "Let them think that. We've had 2,000 years to get ready for this moment." Above them, a holographic map showed dozens of star systems. Each system was marked with different colors. Blue for human territories, red for enemies, yellow for neutral worlds. The map showed something that would have shocked the aliens, humans. Controlled much more space than anyone knew. The Galactic Council thought they knew how the galaxy was divided. The Zephyrian Empire controlled the eastern part. They were a warlike people with gray skin and 4 arms. The Corvin Federation ran most of the trade routes in the south. They looked like giant insects, but were very good at business. In the north, the mysterious Void Walkers kept to themselves. Nobody knew much about them, but none of these powerful groups remembered the small, tough species that had once fought beside them against an ancient enemy called the Devourers. The Devourers had been creatures of pure hunger that ate entire worlds. It had taken all the galaxy's species working together to defeat them 3,000 years ago. After that war, humans had quietly stepped back. While other species celebrated and grew comfortable, humans had watched and learned. They built new ships in secret. They developed better weapons. They studied every alien species, learning their weaknesses. Elena looked at the latest intelligence reports. The Corvin Federation is having problems with their mining operations," she said. "Several stations have gone dark in the past month. They think it's pirates." Admiral Hayes smiled, but it was not a nice smile. "Pirates," he repeated. "That's what they want to think." Captain Morrison's ship was one of many hidden in the veil. The human fleet was much larger than anyone suspected. They had built their ships to be invisible to alien sensors. From the outside, they looked like old cargo ships or mining vessels. But inside, they were warships more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen. "Sir," said Communications Officer Ben Carter, a young man with nervous hands, "we're getting new orders from command." Jake read the message on his screen. It was simple. Begin Phase 1. He had been waiting for this message his whole life. His father had waited. His grandfather had waited. For 1,700 years, humans had been preparing for this day. "All hands," Jake announced over the ship's speaker system. "This is the captain. We are beginning our mission. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. The galaxy forgot about us. Now it's time to remind them." The Alien Council continued their meeting, unaware that their peaceful galaxy was about to change forever. They argued about trade routes and mining rights. They made plans for the future. They felt safe in their comfortable worlds. But in the darkness between the stars, humanity was moving. Ships that had been hidden for centuries started their engines. Weapons that had been silent for generations began to charge. The legends were about to return, and they were very, very angry. The age of human revenge was about to begin. The first sign that something was wrong came from the edge of Corvin space. Mining station Epsilon 7 had been sending regular reports every day for 50 years. Then suddenly, nothing. Captain Alex Turner watched through his ship's cameras as Corvin security forces approached the silent station. His vessel, the Shadow Strike, was invisible to their sensors. It looked like empty space to anyone who might be watching. The Corvin security team was made up of large, insect-like creatures with hard shells and multiple eyes. They moved carefully through the station's corridors, their weapons ready. But what they found made no sense. The station was completely empty. Not just empty of people, empty of everything valuable. All the mining equipment was gone. The computers had been stripped clean. Even the metal walls had been carefully cut away. And taken? It was as if someone had taken apart the entire station piece by piece. "Sir," said Communications Officer Ben Carter from his position at the control panel, "the Corvins are sending emergency messages. They're calling it a pirate attack." Alex smiled, but his eyes remained cold. Let them think that. "How many more targets do we have in this area?" Ben checked his list. 12 mining operations, 3 research stations, and a diplomatic ship that passes through here every month. "Good. We'll take them all." On the council world of Nexus Prime, Intelligence, Director Quinder was getting worried. Quinder was a member of the Hegemony, a group of species that prided themselves on knowing everything that happened in the galaxy. He had pale blue skin and large black eyes that could see in many different types of light. The reports on his desk were disturbing. In the past month, 3 mining operations had vanished. 2 research stations had gone silent. A diplomatic ship had disappeared without sending any distress signal. The attacks were too clean, too professional for normal pirates. "This is not random," Quinder told his assistant, a young Hegemony officer named Kyldar. "Someone is hunting our ships, and they know exactly what they're doing." Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the alien communications from her secret position aboard the research ship Discovery. The Discovery looked like a normal science vessel, but it was actually packed with the most advanced listening equipment humans had ever built. "They're starting to panic," Elena reported to Admiral Hayes through their secret communication channel. "The Corvin Federation is moving warships to protect their remaining mining operations." Admiral Hayes studied the reports from his command center deep inside New Terra. The plan was working perfectly. For 2,000 years, humans had watched and learned. While the alien species had grown comfortable and lazy, humans had been preparing. Human ships were faster than anything the aliens had. Human weapons were more accurate. Most importantly, human tactics were better. The aliens fought the same way they had fought for hundreds of years. But humans had spent centuries studying warfare, learning from every battle in galactic history. Commander Lisa Park was leading the second wave of attacks. Her ship, the U.E.'s Phantom, was even more advanced than the Shadow Strike. It could move through space without making any sound or heat that alien sensors could detect. Lisa was a skilled warrior, but she was also very smart. She had studied the Zephyrian Empire for years, learning their weaknesses. The Zephyrians were proud and aggressive, but they were also predictable. They always responded to attacks in the same way. Target their supply lines, Lisa told her team. Don't fight their warships directly. Cut off their food, fuel, and weapons. Make them weak first. The human attacks were like a perfect dance. Each strike was planned down to the smallest detail. They hit fast, took what they needed, and vanished before anyone could respond. They left no witnesses and no evidence that could identify them. When the Hegemony Patrol fleet finally arrived at the Corvan system, they found only empty space and floating debris. The attacking ships had disappeared as completely as if they had never existed. Captain Morrison was preparing for his own mission. His target was bigger and more dangerous, a Zephyrian military convoy carrying weapons to their border colonies. The convoy was protected by 3 warships and had dozens of fighters. Remember, Morrison told his crew, we're not trying to destroy them. We want their ships and their cargo. Dead enemies can't tell us their secrets. The attack came at the perfect moment. The convoy was passing through an asteroid field where their sensors would be confused by all the floating rocks. Human ships emerged from hiding places among the asteroids, surrounding the convoy before they could react. The battle was short and brutal. Human weapons cut through Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. The alien ships tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't even find the human vessels to target. Within minutes, the convoy was captured. The Zephyrian crews were taken prisoner, and their ships were added to the growing human fleet. The aliens would never know what had happened to their missing convoy. Elena monitored the alien communication networks as panic spread through the galaxy. The major powers were starting to blame each other for the attacks. The Corvan Federation accused the Zephyrians of using fake pirate attacks as an excuse to expand their territory. The Hegemony suspected the mysterious Void Walkers of breaking their ancient neutrality. Perfect, Elena transmitted to Admiral Hayes. They're turning on each other. Soon they'll be too busy fighting among themselves to notice what we're really doing. The human plan was working better than anyone had hoped. Each attack brought more ships, more weapons, and more information about alien weaknesses. The galaxy's major powers were growing weaker while humanity grew stronger. But the attacks were also serving another purpose. They were sending a message to anyone smart enough to read it. The message was simple. Something new was hunting in the galaxy. Something that was faster, smarter, and more dangerous than anything the aliens had ever faced. Admiral Hayes looked at the reports from all the Yonzuri, different attack groups. Every mission had been a complete success. Not a single human had been killed or captured. The aliens still had no idea who was attacking them or why. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, Hayes announced to his commanders. It's time to let them see what they're really facing. The galaxy was about to learn that the legends from their ancient stories were not just real. They were very, very angry. The moment that changed everything happened when the Zephyrian warship Conquest was patrolling the border between their territory and empty space. The conquest was huge, over 2 miles long and armed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Captain Vortak, the ship's commander, felt completely safe. That was his first mistake. The conquest's sensors detected what looked like a simple cargo ship drifting in space. The ship appeared to be having engine problems and was sending out a distress signal. Captain Vortak ordered his crew to investigate. The cargo ship was actually Captain Jake Morrison's vessel, the UES Retribution, disguised to look harmless. Jake watched calmly as the massive Zephyrian warship approached. His crew was ready, but they stayed hidden and waited for the right moment. "Unknown vessel, this is the Zephyrian warship Conquest," came the radio message. "Prepare to be boarded." For inspection. Jake smiled and pressed the response button. "Thank you for responding to our distress call. We're having engine problems and need help." The Zephyrians sent over a boarding party of 20 soldiers. They were large, gray-skinned, creatures with 4 arms and natural armor plates. Each one carried weapons powerful enough to punch through steel walls. They searched Jake's ship carefully, but found only normal cargo, food, medical supplies, and mining equipment. "Everything looks normal," the Zephyrian boarding leader reported. Back to his ship. Just another broken-down freighter. That was their second mistake. The Zephyrians began to relax. Some of them put their weapons away. Others started talking among themselves instead of watching for danger. They thought they were safe on a helpless cargo ship. Jake gave a small hand signal to his crew. What happened next was faster than lightning. Hidden panels in the walls slid open, revealing human soldiers with advanced weapons. The humans had been waiting in secret compartments throughout the ship. The Zephyrian boarding party never had a chance to send a warning or even draw their weapons. The fight was over in less than 30 seconds. All 20 Zephyrian soldiers were dead, and not a single human had been hurt. "Boarding teams, go." Jake ordered. Now it was the humans' turn to board an enemy ship. But unlike the Zephyrians, the humans knew exactly what they were doing. They had studied Zephyrian ship designs for centuries. They knew where every important room was located and how to disable every defense system. The human boarding teams moved through the conquest like ghosts. They used special weapons that made no sound and left no trace. One by one, they eliminated the Zephyrian crew. The aliens never knew what was happening until it was too late. Captain Vortak was in his command room when the lights went out. Emergency. Power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. He tried to contact his security teams, but got no response. He tried to call for help from other Zephyrian ships, but the communication systems were dead. The door to his command room slid open. A human soldier stepped inside, pointing a weapon at him. Vortak had never seen a human before, but somehow he knew what he was looking at. The legends from the ancient stories were real. "You're human," Vortak whispered. "Yes," the soldier replied. "And you're dead." Within 2 hours, the mighty warship Conquest was completely under human control. Jake's team stripped out everything useful: weapons, technology, star charts, and intelligence files. They learned the locations of every Zephyrian military base and the passwords for their communication networks. "Scuttle the ship," Jake ordered when they were done. No evidence. The Conquest exploded in a brilliant flash of light. To anyone watching, it would look like the ship had suffered a reactor accident. The Zephyrians would never know that their most advanced warship had been captured and destroyed by the species they thought was extinct. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was meeting in emergency session. The disappearance of the Conquest had shocked everyone. Zephyrian warships were supposed to be invincible. If one could simply vanish, what did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? Ambassador Zixdar stood before the assembled delegates. His breathing mask was fogging up because he was nervous. "The attacks are too organized," he said. This isn't random piracy. Someone is waging war against us. In the audience, representatives from different species whispered among themselves. The Corvins blamed the Zephyrians. The Zephyrians blamed the Hegemony. The Hegemony blamed the Void Walkers. Nobody suspected the truth. Dr. Elena Rodriguez smiled as she read the intelligence reports from the captured Zephyrian ship. The files contained complete information about every major military installation in the galaxy. Fleet positions, defensive capabilities, supply routes, everything humans needed to plan their next moves. Perfect, Elena transmitted to Admiral Hayes. We now know exactly where to hit them and how to do it. The human fleet began to move like a pack of wolves. Strike teams led by commanders like Alex Turner and Lisa Park attacked targets across dozens of star systems at the same time. Each attack was perfectly timed to cause maximum damage and confusion. The aliens tried to fight back, but they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Human ships appeared out of nowhere, struck with devastating force, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Every battle ended the same way: total human victory and complete alien defeat. The galaxy's major powers began to panic. They started pulling their fleets back to defend their home worlds. Trade routes were abandoned. Colonies were evacuated. The careful balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for 3,000 years was falling apart. Commander Lisa Park led an attack on a Corvin trading station. The station was supposed to be heavily defended, but the humans had studied its defenses for months. They knew exactly where every weapon was placed and how to disable them. All teams, remember the plan. Lisa said over the communication channel, "We're not here to destroy. We're here to capture and learn." The attack was a masterpiece of precision warfare. Human soldiers moved through the station like they had built it themselves. They captured the alien defenders alive and took control of the station's computer systems. Within hours, they had downloaded every piece of information the Corvins had about galactic trade and politics. The surviving Corvin defenders were terrified. They had heard stories about the mysterious attackers, but seeing humans up close was different. These weren't the mindless pirates they had expected. These were professional soldiers with advanced technology and perfect discipline. "What do you want?" asked the station commander, a large insect-like Corvin. Lisa looked at him with cold eyes. "We want what was always ours," she said. "We want the galaxy back." Admiral Hayes watched the battle reports from his command center. Every mission was succeeding beyond his wildest hopes. The alien fleets were scattered and confused. Their governments were turning against each other. Fear was spreading through the galaxy like a disease. "Phase 3 begins now," Hayes announced to his commanders. "It's time to show them what they're really facing. No more hiding. No more secrets. Let them see us." The galaxy was about to learn that the legends from their ancient stories were not just real. They were back, they were angry, and they were ready to reclaim what had once been theirs. The trap was set at Kepler Station, a massive trading post that floated in space between 3 different star systems. Admiral Carthul of the Zephyrian Empire had been planning this moment for weeks. He was sure he could catch the mysterious raiders who had been terrorizing the galaxy. Carthul was a veteran of many battles. He had 4 arms like all Zephyrians, but his were covered in scars from old fights. His gray skin was marked with the tattoos of a war hero. He commanded the largest battle fleet the Zephyrians had ever assembled: 3 huge warships, 12 smaller cruisers, and over 100 fighter craft. "They always strike at trading posts and supply stations," Carthul told his officers. "So, we make Kepler Station look like an easy target. When they come, we'll be waiting." The plan seemed perfect. Most of the Zephyrian fleet was hidden behind a nearby moon, invisible to enemy sensors. Only a few ships remained at the station, making it look poorly defended. When the raiders arrived, they would find themselves surrounded by overwhelming firepower. Admiral Lisa Park, now promoted to fleet commander, approached Kepler Station with her human strike force. She had been expecting this trap for days. Human intelligence networks had intercepted the Zephyrian battle plans almost as soon as they were made. All ships, this is Admiral Park, Lisa broadcast on the human tactical channel. The enemy thinks. They've trapped us. Time to show them how wrong they are. Execute Protocol Omega. What happened next shocked the Zephyrians more than anything in their long history. The human ships that had seemed so small and weak began to change. Panels slid away to reveal hidden weapons. What looked like cargo containers opened up to show missile launchers. The ships themselves seemed to grow larger as stealth armor retracted to show their true size. But that was just the beginning. The space around the station began to ripple like water. Then, one by one, more human ships appeared out of nowhere. They had been there all along, hidden by technology so advanced that the Zephyrians couldn't even detect them. Admiral Carthu watched in horror as his trapped prey revealed itself to be a massive battle fleet. There weren't just a few human ships. There were hundreds. Each one was more advanced than the best warships the Zephyrians had ever built. All ships attack! Carthol screamed into his communication device. Destroy them all. The Zephyrian fleet emerged from behind the moon and charged toward the human vessels. It was an impressive sight, hundreds of warships firing thousands of weapons at once. The space around Kepler Station lit up like a star as energy beams and missiles filled the darkness. But the human response was devastating. Their weapons were more accurate than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Every shot hit its target. Every missile found its mark. Zephyrian ships began exploding one after another, their shields useless against human firepower. Captain Jake Morrison was commanding one of the human battleships. He watched calmly as his weapons tore through the enemy fleet. Target their engines. First, he told his crew, disable them, then capture them. Dead enemies can't give us information. The battle was completely one-sided. The Zephyrians had more ships, but the humans had better technology, better training, and better tactics. Human vessels danced through the enemy formation like they were performing a ballet, avoiding every attack while delivering precise strikes. Within an hour, the mighty Zephyrian fleet was destroyed. Some ships were blown apart. Others were captured by human boarding parties. A few tried to escape, but human vessels were faster and caught them easily. Admiral Carthu's flagship was the last to fall. Human soldiers cut through his ship's defenses like they were made of paper. The admiral found himself face to face with human warriors for the first time in his life. "You're human," he gasped, staring at the soldiers who had defeated his fleet. "Yes," replied the human commander. "We're the species you forgot about. We're the legends from your ancient stories. And we're very angry." Carthol died with that knowledge. His final transmission to the Zephyrian Empire was just one word: humans. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The mysterious raiders weren't unknown aliens or advanced pirates. They were humans, the mythical species that most people believed had never existed. On every world, in every space station, aliens gathered around communication devices to hear the impossible news. The legends were real. The humans had returned, and they were conquering everything in their path. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the interrogation room aboard the human command ship. In front of her was a captured Zephyrian officer, his forearms bound and his eyes wide with terror. "You want to know who we are?" Elena asked in perfect Zephyrian. "We are the species you forgot. We are the children of Earth, the inheritors of 1,000 worlds. We are humanity, and we have been watching you for 2,000 years." The prisoner could only stare. In the old stories, humans were supposed to be primitive and weak. But these humans had technology that seemed like magic and military skills that were beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Morrison was leading another battle at the same time, attacking the main Corvan defense fleet near their home world. The Corvans were insect-like creatures who prided themselves on their logical thinking and careful planning. But logic and planning meant nothing against human superiority. Their defensive formation is exactly what we expected, Morrison told his tactical officer. They haven't changed their tactics in 500 years. Hit them on the left flank and swing around to attack their command ship. The Corvan fleet was destroyed even faster than the Zephyrians had been. Their weapons couldn't penetrate human armor. Their shields collapsed under human firepower. Their communications were jammed by human electronic warfare. Intelligence. Director Quinder of the Hegemony was working frantically in his office on Nexus Prime. The reports coming in from across the galaxy were all the same. Human fleets were attacking everywhere at once, winning every battle, and advancing toward the core worlds. Check the ancient archives, Quinder ordered his assistants. Find everything we have about humans. I need to know what we're facing. The files they found were terrifying. Humans hadn't disappeared during the ancient wars. They had withdrawn. On purpose. They had spent the last 2,000 years preparing for this moment. They had built a civilization dedicated to one goal, revenge. Send a message to all council members, Quinder said. Emergency session. We need to surrender before they destroy us all. But it was already too late. Human fleets were approaching every major world in the galaxy. The age of alien rule was ending. The age of human dominance was about to begin. Admiral Hayes stood in his command center, watching reports from battles across the galaxy. Every human fleet was winning. Every alien fleet was being destroyed or captured. The plan that had taken 2,000 years to prepare was working perfectly. Send the message, Hayes told his communication officer. Tell every government in the galaxy that they have 24 hours to surrender. Anyone who refuses will be destroyed. The galaxy's greatest powers, the Zephyrians, the Corvans, the Hegemony, even the mysterious Void Walkers, all received the same message: surrender or die. The choice was simple. The legends had awakened, and they were ready to reclaim their galaxy. The final battle for the galaxy began at dawn on Nexus Prime, the planet that had been the center of galactic government for 3,000 years was about to fall to human forces. Admiral Hayes personally led the attack, commanding his flagship, UES Vengeance, as it approached the heavily defended world. The combined fleets of every major power in the galaxy waited for him. Zephyrian warships floated alongside Corvan vessels. Hegemony cruisers fought beside ships from a dozen smaller species. Even the mysterious Void Walkers had emerged from their hidden territories to join the desperate last stand. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. Over 10,000 alien ships faced the human fleet in a final attempt to save their civilization. The space around Nexus Prime was filled with so many vessels that they blocked out the stars. Ambassador Zixtar stood on the command deck of the Hegemony flagship, watching the human fleet approach. Even with all their ships united, he felt afraid. The humans had defeated every force sent against them. They had won every battle. They seemed unstoppable. All ships, prepare for battle, came the voice of Admiral Carvin, the Zephyrian officer who had taken command after Admiral Carthul's death. Today we fight for our freedom. Today we fight for our future. The human fleet was smaller than the alien armada, but every ship was a masterpiece of military engineering. They had been designed by people who understood war better than any species. In the galaxy, they moved through space like dancers, each ship perfectly coordinated with all the others. Begin the attack, Admiral Hayes commanded. The battle lasted exactly 7 hours. When it was over, the alien fleet had been completely destroyed. Some ships were blown apart by human weapons. Others were captured by boarding parties. A few tried to escape, but human vessels caught them all. The planet's surface defenses fell next. Missiles and energy beams that should have been powerful enough to destroy entire fleets were useless against human technology. The orbital stations that protected Nexus Prime were captured one by one. Admiral Hayes landed on the planet's surface with a full division of human soldiers. They marched through the capital city toward the council building, while alien civilians watched in silent fear. The humans didn't hurt anyone who didn't fight them, but their message was clear. Resistance was useless. The council building was a magnificent structure that had stood for thousands of years. Inside, the surviving alien leaders waited for their fate. They had gathered in the same chamber where they had ruled the galaxy, but now they were prisoners. Ambassador Zixtar knelt in the ruins of the council chamber. His breathing mask was cracked, and his hands were shaking. In front of him stood the man who had conquered the galaxy in less than a year. "You believed we were legends," Admiral Hayes said quietly. "Stories told to frighten children. But legends are born from truth. And the truth is that humanity never forgives, never forgets, and never stops fighting." The terms of surrender were simple. Every alien government would serve the human empire. Every military force would be disbanded. Every world would accept human rule. Those who obeyed would be allowed to live. Those who resisted would be destroyed. "You can't rule the entire galaxy," Zixtar said weakly. "There are too many worlds, too many species. You don't have enough people." Hayes smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "We don't need to rule every world directly. We just need to make sure everyone knows what happens to those who disobey us." The surrender ceremony was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. One by one, the leaders of the great powers knelt before Admiral Hayes and accepted human rule. The Corvan Federation fell within days. The Zephyrian Empire lasted barely a week. Even the Void Walkers chose to submit rather than face extinction. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was appointed as the first human administrator of galactic affairs. Her job was to manage the transition from alien rule to human control. She set up her office in the same building where the Galactic Council had once met, but now the rules were very different. "The galaxy will be divided into sectors," Elena announced to the assembled alien leaders. "Each sector will be governed by a human administrator. You will serve as advisors, but all final decisions will be made by humans." The new system was efficient and brutal. Worlds that cooperated received food, medicine, and protection. Worlds that resisted were bombed until they surrendered. The aliens learned quickly that fighting humans was useless. Admiral Lisa Park took command of the occupation forces. Her job was to make sure the transition proceeded smoothly. She established human military bases on every important world and created a network of spies and informants to watch for signs of rebellion. "Remember," Lisa told her officers, "we're not here to be cruel. We're here to be in charge. Treat the aliens fairly as long as they obey. But anyone who tries to fight us will be destroyed completely." Captain Jake Morrison decided to retire after the war ended. He had spent his entire life preparing for this moment, and now that it was over, he felt empty. He bought a small farm on New Terra and tried to live a peaceful life. But sometimes, on quiet evenings, he would look up at the stars and remember the old days. He remembered when humans had been the hunted instead of the hunters. He remembered when they had been weak instead of strong. Those days were gone forever. The galaxy slowly adapted to its new reality. Trade resumed under human supervision. Colonies were rebuilt according to human plans. Scientists from different species worked together on projects approved by human administrators. Children grew up learning human languages alongside their own. Schools taught human history and human values. The old ways of thinking were slowly replaced by new ones. Some aliens tried to resist. Secret groups formed on distant worlds, planning rebellion against human rule. But human intelligence networks were too good, and human military forces were too strong. Every rebellion was crushed. Before it could really begin, the former powers of the galaxy told their children stories about the time before the humans returned. They talked about the days when the galaxy had been free, when different species had ruled their own worlds and made their own choices. But Admiral Hayes knew the truth. The galaxy had never been truly free. It had simply been waiting for its rightful rulers to return from the darkness between the stars. "We were always meant to rule," Hayes said to Elena as they stood in the observation deck of the orbital station above Nexus Prime. "The other species had their chance. They wasted it. They grew soft and weak and forgot about the dangers in the universe." Elena nodded, looking out at the busy space traffic around the planet. Ships from dozens of species moved in careful patterns, all following human flight control instructions. "The Devourers could return someday," she said. "When they do, the galaxy will need strong leadership to survive." Hayes agreed. The ancient enemy that had once threatened to consume all life in the galaxy was still out there, somewhere in the dark spaces between galaxies. When they came back, only humanity would be strong enough to lead the fight against them. Years passed, and the new order became normal. Alien children who had never known freedom grew up accepting human rule as natural. The older generations, who remembered independence, died off one by one, taking their memories with them. Human settlements appeared on worlds across the galaxy. Human families moved to distant planets, bringing their culture and their technology with them. Slowly but steadily, humanity spread through the stars, like they had always been meant to do. The great libraries on Nexus Prime were rewritten. The old histories that barely mentioned humans were replaced with new books that told the true story. Future generations would learn that humans had always been the galaxy's natural leaders. Captain Morrison lived quietly on his farm for many years. Sometimes former soldiers would visit him, and they would sit on his porch talking about the old days. They remembered the battles they had fought and the victories they had won. They were proud of what they had accomplished. When Morrison finally died at the age of 95, he was buried with full military honors. His gravestone carried a simple message. He helped humanity reclaim its destiny. Admiral Hayes ruled the galaxy for 30 years before passing leadership to his chosen successor. On his deathbed, he smiled as he looked out at the stars. The human empire was strong and growing stronger. The galaxy was safe under human protection. "We kept our promise," Hayes whispered to Elena, who had remained his closest advisor throughout the years. "We never forgot, we never forgave, and we never stopped fighting for what was ours." Elena held his hand as he died. She had lived to see humanity transform from hidden survivors to galactic rulers. It had been the greatest adventure in human history, and she was proud to have been part of it. The galaxy learned to live under its new masters. Trade flourished under human management. Wars between alien species became things of the past. Crime rates dropped as human law enforcement proved far more effective than the old systems. But the humans never forgot why they had returned. Deep in the archives of New Terra, they kept records of every alien species that had forgotten about humanity. They remembered every insult, every dismissal, every moment when they had been treated as myths and legends. The age of human rule had begun, and it would last forever. The galaxy had its rightful masters back, and they would never again allow themselves to be forgotten or ignored. In